right, here we go. I'm started recording. So, oh, that's going to be an issue. Right, I got to plug in the HDMI. Yeah. Georgian Bay Tech Club. Yeah, I'm a technologist. We'll figure it out, right? It was just broken. They can see it. Okay, good. Okay, so we're recording. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about loops and code flow, as you sort of requested last meeting. So I think we just do it like this. And I, there's this whiteboard here, and we can work with that later if you want. Why is it going backwards? Okay, hello. It's doing something weird. Okay, so the standard flow code goes just line by line, right? Just nothing real special to it. The output expected is ABC. It's going to go through line 1, 2, and then 3. Why are you doing this to me? It's just like resetting. I don't know what arrows are. And then sort of early assembly and stuff had the idea that you could jump from one line to another. And so sometimes they give them numbers, sometimes they give them names. You could do it in basic. Um, and this is how you sort of made a loop or made logic is you could jump from one bit of code to another. So this one prints goes to line 1, it prints the A, and then the go to jumps to line 4, and then it prints the C, and then it's done. So it skips line 3 there. And with these kind of statements, you can make a loop to go over code more than one time. Why are you doing this to me? No, I'm just using the arrows or space, and I'll just do it like this. Click, yeah. So another type of loop um, is a while loop, and so a while loop has a condition, and if it's true, it runs the code, and then it goes and checks the condition again. So it'll go back up to so it'll print A, and then it'll go back up and check if whatever's in the parentheses is true. If it is, it'll do it again. If it's false, then it'll skip out to line 3 and dump out of the loop. So it'll stop. Yeah. And it melted my screen. Okay. So So that one will go forever because it's always true, right? So this one has a condition. So I can initialize a variable, set to 0, and while the variable is less than 5, print A, and then in the loop. So I'm in the loop. I'm going to print, and then I'm going to increment A, or not increment A, increment I by 1, and then eventually it'll be equal to 5, and then it'll dump out of the loop. So it'll stop doing the loops. You can there is a command where you say plus equals, and it will do that. Or you can do plus plus in some languages as well. So a do while loop is similar, except it does the check at the bottom. So it always runs through the code at least once, and then it checks for the condition at the bottom. And so this one, I is already 5, but because it goes through the loop before it checks the condition, it'll print A. And then it'll check and it'll say, oh, I is 6 now for some reason, and we're not going to run the loop anymore. So that's a do while. So it's like a while loop, but it checks after. It goes through the line 1, line 3, 4, and then it checks to if this is true. If it's true, it'll go through again. So a while loop checks before it runs the code. So the while loop will check, and then so it'll go 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So do while is not very common, but you see it in code sometimes. A for loop has 3 different parts in the parentheses, and usually a for loop is when you have a fixed number of elements you want to run through, but you can have different kinds of code in here. Here there's 3 different parts. So this part is the initialization, so it happens before the for loop runs. We're setting I to 0. And this is the condition, so if it's true, it'll run the loop. And then an increment that happens at the end, or not an increment, but a change that happens at the end. And so the change can be -1, -5. The change can have more than one variable. The condition can be quite complicated. It doesn't need to be this simple. You don't need to initialize anything if you don't want to. Yeah, at the end it goes plus plus. So it starts at 0. It does a check, and then it prints the A, and then it does the plus plus, and then it does the check, and then it prints the A, and then it does the plus plus. Yeah, it'll stop. And I don't know if it should print 4 or 5 A's at the moment. My brain is not working at the moment, but that's okay. That's fine. I'm not. Yeah. Okay, so let's say you load some things from the database, a list of ingredients, and you have 5 different ingredients, and you want to print out each ingredient and how much you use of each. So in a for loop, you could go through each ingredient and then tell it to display, display, display. And so the code inside the for loop could just be display ingredient, and it knows how to make some nice HTML for that ingredient. But you just pass in all your ingredients in a list, and then you don't need to say if it's eggs, type it like this, or do the same code 5 different times. You just say any number of ingredients, I don't care anymore, go through there. And then a while loop, yeah, an array, yeah. Yeah. For loops are great for going through arrays or linked lists of stuff. A while loop might be, let's say you're getting user input, okay, and you ask them what they want to do next in your game. It's like a text-based adventure. Maybe they want to look around. Maybe they want to pick up a treasure. Maybe they want to fight the goblin. Um, but maybe sometimes they want to quit, right? So in the while loop, you can say if the text you typed in last time was quit, then we're going to exit the loop and the game's over. Otherwise, we're going to keep processing the text and keep asking you, okay, what do you want to do next? What do you want to do next? So that's an example of where you could use those.
Oh, so you can kind of like create a while loop to show like
If the game's not over, then
then
keep playing.
on each turn or whatever, you could print out like a little, what do you want to do now?
Yeah. So if you're talking about your Pong game, right, and you're going to have a certain score, like 10 points, then it's done. So if points is less than 10,
Oh yeah, yeah.
keep playing the game. Otherwise, maybe you want to show like a who wins screen, or the game's a tie, or something like that, right? So there's other ways to get out of loops. So other than like breaking that condition or meeting that condition of a false, what you can do is break. So this is a special command here called break, and it will finish the loop for you. So it's a way of short circuiting the loop. This one should go through 4 times, but because it has the break statement when I is equal to 2, then it only goes through twice. So it's a short circuit. So just this line here.
Oh, I see. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I see that curly brackets.
Yeah, yeah. So the curly brackets mean it's in a block of code. Yeah, and then so the output expected is since we're printing I instead of A or whatever, it's 0, 1, and then it's equal to 2, so it breaks and doesn't print, and it doesn't go through the loop anymore. Yeah. Let's say we were talking about searching, right, in code and text, right? So maybe you're searching for the first instance of the word cat, and you're going through the text and you're going through each word, and you find cat. You don't have to go through all the other words. You can just say, okay, I found cat. Here's the index it's at. Break. We don't need to do the rest of the loop.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
So
So
that's
this could be like could be like the skeleton for like a search command, like the search control F.
yeah, it could be. Find the first one and then start at the next index and find the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's break. And then another one is continue. So continue is similar to break, where it ends. Um, you can short circuit it, but it doesn't end the loop. It just goes to the next instance. So it stops running the code of the current loop, the current run of the loop, but it'll go back up to check the condition again. So in this instance, is looking for I is less than 4, and I made it. So the little percent sign there is modulus. So it's looking for odd numbers or even numbers, or whatever. So if basically the if statement is if it's an odd number, then we're going to skip it. Otherwise, we're going to print it.
Oh, okay.
So it prints 0 and then 2 because when it gets to 1, it runs the line number 3 there. It's continue, and it'll skip that one.
Oh,
So it's another kind of short circuit, but it doesn't get break out of the loop. It just goes to the next start of loop, and you can do that in a while loop as well. You're saying I'm done running code in this current instance of the loop, but you can go to the next value. So another way to make things loop in circles is recursion. So in recursion, we have functions calling themselves. So a function is a block of code It has a parameter you can pass in. It has a return value. It's going to do similar stuff. If you pass the same value, it usually does similar stuff. Um, so here you have a function called cat. You pass in a, and then it prints a. And if a is less than 4, then we're going to call cat again, but with a plus 1 as a parameter. So if we call cat in the example with 0, it'll print 0. It'll check to see if 0 is less than 4, which it is, and then it'll call cat, but with 1 instead of a 0.
Oh, I see.
And then that call of cat will start back at the top at line 1 with 1 passed as a parameter. It'll print 1. It'll check to see if 1 is less than 4 and say yeah. So it'll call cat again with the number 2 now because it is a plus 1. And so eventually it'll get to 4. It'll do its print, and then a is not less than 4, so it won't call cat. So it'll skip that in the if block, and it'll end the function. So it's not a loop in code like a for or a while, but it is called it's recursion. It's a function calling itself, and there's different uses for this. Um, it can make code interesting. When you use like you're passing in parameters and the return value, you can use both of those when you call the next function. You can concatenate all the return values. Maybe you're generating a paragraph, and each call of the function adds in a word. And then once you hit a certain length of a sentence, you say, okay, I'm done.